Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Resume Revive Career Services YouTube channel, your go to channel for everything career related, as well as resume writing tips. Today, I am so excited to do something a little differently. I'm going to change it up a bit. I have invited a very special guest who's going to be a part of our conversation today. Her name is Miss Janine Wiggins. She is a federal resume writer, a federal career coach, a job search trainer, as well as a life coach. And she is the owner of Resumes by Neen LLC.
Hi,
I would
Kamiki, and your audience. Thanks for having me today.
I am so excited, Janine, to have you join our conversation today. And I also would like to let the viewers know that we have known each other for about 5 years since we've been on our resume writing journeys. And it is so great to see how our relationship has evolved as well as our businesses since we've actually started this process with our businesses.
I agree. I never would have thought that I would have made a friend in real life on Instagram. So we connected on Instagram through our business pages, and it's just been up since there.
Yeah, it has. And although we provide a lot of tips through social media, because you and I have always been on social media, we post content about job search related tips as well as writing tips. I just thought it's really great that we take the time to have this conversation. Although we've been a part of podcasts and live events on social media, we just haven't taken the time, you and I, to really just have conversations about resumes and how important they are.
I agree. I'm excited to speak with you today.
Yes. So today we're going to have a conversation about the differences between a federal resume versus a private sector or your standard resume. And we both know how important resumes are in the job market today. It's still a very crucial part of the job search. And most people don't really see how important the resume is and how well it helps you to stand out. So I thought it would be really great to just dive into this conversation and let the subscribers as well as viewers know how important a resume is to job search. And although you could have a really great job search strategy for applying for employment, if your resume is not showing how you could add value in the role and really show your qualifications well, you will not probably be contacted for an interview or moving forward with working or finding the job. So, I would like to start off by just talking about the private sector resumes or your standard resume and the three elements of how those resumes should look typically when you have those standard resumes. The first being that you should have quantifiable achievements in your professional standard resumes. That means that you have to really showcase how you have made an impact in your roles, so you can't simply just add job descriptions there and not really give in depth details and concrete specific numbers on how you have made the impact in the roles. So the first would be quantifiable achievements. And then, second, all standard or private sector resumes should have a concise and able to read or readability format so that you're very clear about what you are saying in your resume and it's just straight to the point. You don't have extra words written in that has nothing to do with what you are applying to, but it's just a concise flow and format. And then third, you also want to tailor your, you want to be specific about the job that you're applying to. And it's so important still to have customized resumes that are specific to that role and not just use the same resume when applying to different roles and they're not related to anything in the job that you're applying to.
Mm.
So I want, after talking about those three key elements that I know are important to a private sector or just your standard resume when applying to industries, Can you tell me what are some of the differences since you do a lot of work around federal resumes and people who are applying for federal related roles? What are those key differences that you would like to lift up between the federal resume and the private sector resume?
So before I go over the differences, I do want to say that everything you said about the quantifiable achievements, the readability, and tailoring your resume, you want to do all of that for the federal. So
Okay.
in addition, the differences would be the length of the federal resume is going to be 3 to 5 pages. So your private sector resume is going to be 1 to 2 pages, but for the federal, you definitely want to utilize your 3 to 5 pages because the application is your resume. So on your federal, you also want to include your full address because again, that's your application. You want to not include your LinkedIn URL because a lot of times they consider that as a link. They're not going to click on the link anyway. And also,
Mhm.
they don't want to see social media attached to your resume.
Okay.
Another difference would be the format is going to be more so a paragraph format versus bullet points. So you can still use a few bullet points to highlight your accomplishments, but the rest of your resume is going to use your page space wisely by writing everything in a paragraph narrative form without preferably using the word I. So you're still going to write in resume language and use your strong action verbs, but you're going to write a narrative and a complete work history versus just highlights of your work history. And the last thing I want to point out are like including your salary information, your supervisor's name and their contact number, things like your employer's full address. All of those are components of a federal resume, and you'll see that in the job posting. It'll have the requirements, and that makes the federal resume different from the private sector resume.
Okay. And I took down some of the things that you said that to me are really parts that stand out with the differences as
Mhm.
far as having detailed information about salary, supervisors information. I know that a lot of times people forget this information. So if they have not kept up with this information, it will be hard for them to build out a federal resume.
It would be. So, what I like to recommend is to keep a master copy of your resume. This would include every job you've ever had and keep your supervisor's name, their contact. Even if you put HR and have the phone number or at least the email address, you need to have at least a master document of your work history. Because when you work
Okay.
with us, like Kamiki and myself, we don't know you. We don't know what you did. We don't know where you worked. So there's
No.
no way we could tell you what your salary was. We can maybe do like a salary search and maybe guess an approximate guess, but we don't know you. So it's up to the job seeker to keep a file and accurate records.
It is. That's so important to keep your accurate records because you don't know at any time when you will need this information. So,
Right.
especially when you're going through a resume writing process, you don't have time to search, and you should be able
Correct.
to supply the information that's needed when you are requesting the services. So,
Correct.
can you tell me why is the detail and accuracy in the federal resume so important?
The detail and accuracy in the federal resume is important because the hiring manager or the HR specialist who's reviewing your resume, they're actually looking for your experience to correlate with the job posting. So if the job posting says you need experience with Excel and making 100 spreadsheets, I'm just using that as an example, then
Hmm.
in your resume, you need to have that you worked at XYZ company, you use Excel to make spreadsheets, what the spreadsheets were for, you made at least 100 of them, and then the impact. So did the spreadsheet help your manager organize inventory better? Did it help you guys keep a log of something better? Did it increase productivity and efficiency in finding information? The details are important because if they can't see that you meet the criteria of the job posting, if it's not documented, then you didn't do it. So I was in nursing school at one point, and that was a big thing. They always said, if it's not documented, then it's not done. And that's the same thing with your resume. If you didn't put it on there, then you didn't do it because they're not going to make an assumption
Love that.
of what you did.
Hmm. That's true. I like that. If we don't see it, it didn't happen. And I
Right.
think sometimes that when resumes are written, sometimes the job description is just written out, but it doesn't give the details of what you actually did in the role, how
Mhm.
you added to the role, the skills that you develop in the role, and the specific tasks that you actually did. I always
Right.
tell people not to just list you don't list job descriptions out again because recruiters are familiar with the job description
Mhm.
already, but you have to really show what you did and how you added into the role those tasks.
Right. I agree.
So what do federal hiring managers typically look for in candidates?
So there are a few competencies that almost every federal job is going to require. Those would be things like oral and written communication, interpersonal skills, problem solving skills, analytical thinking. So you won't ever go wrong with listing examples of how you have demonstrated those competencies in your resume. But overall, they really are looking for your resume to identify exactly what the job posting says and have that information in the job in your resume. Because if it's not in there, you're really not going to get referred. And when I say referred, that means to the second step. So you apply, then you get
Mhm.
referred. The people who get referred from there, they narrow down the applicant pool to see who they want to interview. So just because you get referred does not mean you'll get an interview, but if you're getting referred, it means your resume is working.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really a huge difference with just the standard resume. You really
Right.
have to go through a process for applying for federal positions.
It really is a process and it can take like 3 to 4 months or more. So I would say be prepared for the long haul. Don't quit your job because you applied for a federal job and it looks like
Mhm.
it's going to give you some good news. I would definitely stay on your job
Mhm.
until like the last day you can, because federal jobs are known to be a drawn out process. And I would hate for somebody to quit their job in anticipation of getting hired and then something falls through.
Yeah. It
Hmm.
sounds like a very complex process, but you have to just really have everything that you need and be prepared, have detailed written resume so that you know or feel confident about moving to the second step of the process. But
Right,
definitely do not quit your job.
right. Please don't.
So, how should individuals transition from the private sector to a federal employment resume? How should they make that transition if they have always had a standard resume, but now they're
Mhm.
looking to apply for a federal position?
So to make that transition, I definitely recommend that they start with just building out the small components. So go ahead and add, you can actually add references on your federal resume. So get that information together, add your trainings that correlate to your industry, add any awards, because on a federal resume, you'll have a lot of space. So you can fill that space up with the awards you've received. Like, let's say you got Employee of the Month, you can put that Employee of the Month for May of 2020, but then actually put a small paragraph or at least 2 sentences on why you got that Employee of the Month. Then, like we spoke about before, go ahead and add your supervisor, add their contact information, add if the federal government can contact them as a reference, add your salary. And one main thing is go on to usajobs.gov and start looking through some of the jobs that you think you would want to apply for. And you can actually tailor your resume toward those jobs, even if you're not going to apply for that specific job, but so that you will have like an outline of your federal resume and you're not scrambling at the last minute. So if you're
Yeah.
adding competencies from different job postings,
Mhm.
then you'll find one job posting that you do want to apply for in your resume. You won't be starting from scratch.
Okay.
Hmm.
That sounds really great. Just the advice that you've given our viewers today, because sometimes it just could seem as though when you're transitioning from just a regular position to federal, you just
Hmm.
could submit the same resume that you've always
Um,
submitted. But listening to you is a huge difference in what they are looking for. And if you're not as detailed and accurate, you will not move forward in the process. So thank you for providing that advice today. What is one piece of professional advice you will give to someone who's just starting out? What would be your advice if you could tell someone who's trying to develop a resume on their own? What type of advice would you give them?
I would tell somebody, especially if they're new to the workforce, think about your 10-year plan, your 5-year plan. Because a lot of times we get suckered into working because we just need money. And yes, we
Mhm.
are working for money, but take apply for the jobs and take various roles based on where you're going.
Mhm.
So I understand that the economy can be kind of crazy, and you might need to go take a job at a retail store. But if your end goal is to be like a project manager, then at least while you're working at the retail store, find somewhere where you can volunteer and get project management skills.
I agree.
Work on your PMP certification.
Mhm.
Make sure that your career history is going to align with where you're going, and don't just worry about the now. Because I get a lot of job seekers, they want to apply for a federal job and then they don't have any experience that aligns with the job they like, their dream job. So you should
Mhm.
always have that dream job in the back of your head when you're
Yes.
applying to different roles and just when you're deciding if you want to take a job.
I like that. That was really great advice because you just don't sometimes focus on the end goal. You just focusing
Right.
on the now. But when you try to apply for the job that you really wanted, now you don't have the skills to even be able to apply. You haven't built up any experience in that role. So, of course, now you have to start over and build up those skills.
Right. I definitely agree with that.
Well, thank you so much, Janine, for joining our conversation today. And before you leave our conversation, I would like for you to let the viewers know how they will be able to contact you if they would like to use your services. If you could just share your social media handles as well so that they'll be able to contact you.
Of course, you can find me on, of course, the website is resumesbyneen.com. And then I'm on most social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as at Resumes by Neen. And then on LinkedIn, I'm on as myself, Janine Wiggins. So please reach out, connect. Let me know if you reached out or you're connecting with me because you saw Kamiki's YouTube, and I'd love to connect with you.
Okay, well, thank you. And also, if you have not remembered the information, Resumes by Neen LLC is one of the Resume Revive Career Services partners. So the information is also found under our website, www.theresumerevive.com. Under Partnerships tab, you can locate her information there as well. Thank you all for joining. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please like and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It was great talking to you all, and I will chat with you all later.